A great approach to try and get to the heart of what do you want your life to look and feel like a year from now is to go through this exercise that I do with a lot of clients. And it's just a list of prompts or thought starters on different aspects of your situation that you want to consider in trying to create the perfect, the ideal situation for you in that period of time. So let me take you through them.
Okay, so starting with what's the nature of your work? What are you doing? Which may be different than what you're doing now. Again, what do you want your life to look and feel like? You're doing a little bit of dreaming here. What's the nature of your work? What's the mission and values of your company? If you know them, but you probably feel them even if they're not stated anywhere. I mean, my own experience, I used to work for a company that had 100,000 plus employees, and they spent a lot of time talking about the mission and values, and they were very clearly communicated, not always as clearly put into action. That happens. For myself now, I run my own company, so the mission and values of the company are more closely tied to my own. And it's obviously something I've thought a lot about. But in order for you to feel really connected to the company, those things are important in alignment of how you feel and what the company espouses. So, what's the mission and values of the company? What size company are you working for? Is it a big, complex corporation? Is it a small startup, something in between? Are you doing something entrepreneurial and you're out on your own? What do you want your life to look and feel like in relation to the size of the company you're working with? Who are you working with? Who are you surrounded with on a daily basis? It could be your team, it could be your peers. Definitely include your boss. What do you want the characteristics of the person that you're working with? Now, if you're lucky, you're going to describe the person that you're working for right now. Um, if you're like most of us, you'll have some examples of bosses that you've worked with in the past, some that you want to emulate, and some that you want to be exactly opposite from. It's all good learning. So, who do you want your boss to be? Great thing to think about in terms of your work life. Where are you working? From a geographic standpoint, what part of the country or the world are you in? But also these days, it's great to think about, are you in an office? Are you in a remote situation? Is it some kind of a hybrid? You're dreaming, so what's best for you? And we're coming up with an ideal list of what you want for, to make your life look and feel like. And the reality is, we almost never get the complete list, but it'll give you a feel for what you're shooting for, and then you can get a feel for what things you're willing to compromise on. What are the hours of your work? Are you working normal hours most of the time? Does your work bleed from, well beyond regular working hours, and you're doing projects, checking email, getting caught up, whatever it is in the evening? Or do you want your work to stay in your work and have tighter boundaries between your work and other aspects of your life? So that's something to think about too, because you may be able to create the situation. Are you traveling? How much are you traveling? Is it 20% of the time? Is it 50% of the time? Do you have a feel for where you want to travel to? If it's, in your country, outside your country, are those things important to you? What kind of team are you leading? And are you leading a team for which you have authority, or are you leading a broader team over which you have influence? What's best for you? And that answer may change over time too. Something else that can be important to people is, in what ways are you growing or stretching? That can be, really motivating for people. So it's something else to think about. Another thing, which may feel basic, but is more or less important to people depending on your stage of life or whatever, is your compensation. What's the structure? How much is fixed? How much is variable? How much are you making? And that can be important beyond the money. And we all like to make money. But one of the things that I learned in my own journey from corporate world to running my own business, which, when you step out and start a business and run it, it takes a couple of years to ramp up. And in some ways, the money was more important to me because it felt like tangible evidence of the value I was putting in the world. So sometimes it's worth thinking about the money, what you need to make, but also what's beneath it. What does it represent to you in your life, and what difference does it make for you in your life? And then think about what else is in your life. If in terms of carving out the ideal situation, what does it look like in terms of family and friends and how much time you have or don't with them? Do you have a need for something, for giving back, for some kind of community service? What role does spirituality play in your life? It could be religious or other types, but is that something that you need to make space for? We talked about growth a little bit. That's another one for sure, but fun. Like, are you doing things that you really love to do? And what do you want? What kind of space do you want that to take up in your life in this ideal situation? And two other things that I would think about is, how do you feel at the end of the week? How do you want to feel at the end of the week? And how do you want to feel when the alarm goes off in the morning? Like, those are things to think about, because how you feel, how you react to things really tells you a lot about what's going on. So why not craft it? Why not think about what it is that you want, and then you can manifest it? But today we're just going as far as thinking about what you want. So take some time with this exercise. Think about it. You may have things you want to add to that list, which is great. And in fact, I'd love to hear it if you add things to the list. But take some time with it. And I would say, don't sit down in one session and go through all of that. Rather, take some of it on and then live with it for a little bit and see what comes up and what you may want to change.